Welcome to Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I'll be covering every studio song the band has recorded and every bonus track that I can find. Each week we'll go over a new song from the beginning to where they are currently, and as they keep adding albums, I'll keep adding shows. Let the deep dive party begin.
In the magic garden, some were singing, some were dancing.
Hello and welcome to Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I am your host, Scott Haskin, and we are here kicking off, I can't believe I'm saying this, season 23. And the album we're covering this season is Outsider. We have our final lineup change in the band. Taking over for Trevor Boulder on bass, we have Davey Rimmer. And I just had the pleasure of meeting him, and he is such a cool guy, a really knowledgeable, very excited to be a part of this band, has a great history as a musician, and it was really fun to talk to him. The link for my interview with him is on the website. If you go to scotthaskin.com, click Uriah Heep Podcast, and there is a section that will take you to a page where I have all the interviews, links to all the interviews with band members and related people that I've done. Really great guy. So this is his first album with the band. And we, when I look at this album cover, I have to say this is really one of my favorites. I think it's really cool. It's just, it paints such an interesting picture, and even though I don't know exactly what it's supposed to say, I'm going to give you my speculation here in a second. But even though I don't know exactly what it's supposed to say, I think the album cover is just visually, it just looks cool. It makes me smile. And I like that. At the top, we've got like a really dark, stormy or nighttime, heading into night scene. And at the top, the Uriah Heep logo is just laid over that dark gray. But at the bottom, we have Outsider is down on the ground in a very, typical like the Uriah Heep curvy letter font that we're used to. And then the album cover, which is typically just like a block font, is down at the bottom. Looks really cool. But what we've got this scene, and, it's sort of a dystopian. I hate to say it's dystopian because I don't know that for a fact, but I will say desolate is what's happening here. You've got some sand off in the distance. You have a lot of clouds. I don't see any water per se. I thought at first there were some mountains in the background, but I think those are actually just clouds because I can see the sun cracking through in little places towards the bottom. So I think really it's just like a dry desert area, but instead of like the brown dirt, it's a little bit more grayish. Rolling from left to right, we see a giant stone wheel. And, usually when I think of wheels, I think of Ronnie James Dio because he was always singing about never-ending wheels and things like that. Great guy, that Ronnie. But so this seems to have come to a stop or is moving very slowly as it's cut through the dirt. So the dirt to the right of it is undisturbed. It's just very dry, cracked desert dirt. And boy, I tell you, living in Nevada, having lived in Arizona, I am so used to seeing that kind of dirt. But obviously the dirt on the left where the real wheel has rolled up to has been disturbed. The wheel looks like it's made out of stone. It appears to all be one piece, but, who knows? The way that things are crafted, a lot of times things give that appearance without actually being one piece. But, it's a drawing, so nobody made this. But growing out of this wheel are 3 trees, and the perspective on them is very bizarre. It almost looks like the wheel itself is thicker on one end and not as thick on the other, or it's more like a what do you call it? Like a barrel roll? I'm trying to think of what we call them in miniature golf, but like a loop-de-loop where you could come in one side and go out the other side, although it does give the appearance of a solid circle. The reason I say loop-de-loop is because the small tree that's on the left appears to be farther in the background, and the wheel appears to be a little bit closer on the right than it is on the left. So it does kind of give that feeling, but yet it also seems like a solid piece. Also, because of the perspective of it, we're seeing the inside, the width of it on the right, and mostly on the upper right would be like the pinpoint, and the bottom left, we don't see it at all. So from that perspective, even though it looks like we're looking at it dead on, again, gives the impression that it's not a perfect circle. It's really weird. It's very surreal. Probably maybe even like a basic Escher concept, I want to say. So we've got that little tree on the left, and we've got a bunch of birds that are flying in through this loop. And then just slightly to the right, we have the largest tree. And then in the upper right, I would say around, what would that be, like 130? Yeah, probably about 130 if you're looking at this as a clock. And there's a reason I say that. We have the medium-sized tree. And then in between the two rightmost trees, we have a guy standing there with an umbrella. He doesn't look happy, but he's got the umbrella up over him as if it's going to rain or is raining, even though we see no evidence of that. And he appears to be walking up the circle, with his weight shifted the way it is. I would say he probably is defying gravity right now, because just judging the position of his legs versus his torso, he really should be tumbling back down the wheel, but he's not. So there's that. The reason I find that the watch is interesting is because, there's 3 different sized trees. They're all pointing towards the center as if they were watch hands. Again, I don't know if that was the intended concept of that, but I do find that interesting. You'd have the hour, the minute, and the second hand. I don't know. I just think the whole thing looks really cool. The image is very sharp and clear. I love the mood of the sky. It just has a really, really cool image about it to me. So I really like that. And then on the back, we have a rocky, landscape. It looks like there's a storm headed in. There's birds flying. It looks like they're flying either into or away from the storm. We have a very twisted tree with no leaves on it, just branches going all over to the right on the top of one of the rocks. And, again, the clouds on either side. It really continues the picture along very well. I don't know if this was all meant to be. I don't think it was meant to be one picture, just because of the differences in some of the spots. So 2 different pictures, but they're both very cool. They work very well together. A great album cover, I have to say. I really like this one. And, I haven't been a fan or understood all of the album covers, but this one, even if I don't have the premise of it right, it's like music. You can say, I enjoy this, and here's what it makes me feel. And the creator can say, well, here's why I wrote it. And they could be 2 different things, but you can both enjoy it just the same. So I really enjoy this cover, whether I have that concept correct or not. I do find it very fascinating, a little bit mind-bending, but very cool just the same. And that brings us to our first song on this album. Now, this album came out in June of 2014. Livin' the Dream came out in 2018, and we are awaiting the release date of the new album. So this would be hopefully in 2022. So around this time, it looks like the band's putting out an album every 4 years, going on massively extensive tours, doing festivals, headlining some shows, opening for other bands. Like I saw them headlining the first time. Second time I saw them, they were opening for Judas Priest. I mean, they're on the road. They love being on stage. And as I've said many times, you can just see that looking at them. You can feel it in the music, how much fun they're having play it. And that is one of the great joys of seeing this band live, among playing, amazing songs and playing them so well, with passion, with energy, with everything that you'd want. But just the energy on stage that radiates out to the crowd is such a magical thing for this band. So go see them live when we can go see them live, when the world's not insane. I know they're scheduling dates for this year. They've got some stuff coming up, but it's kind of sporadic for a while as we continue to figure out this whole live thing. Here in Vegas, they're just kind of doing whatever the hell they want. We're having all kinds of concerts, all kinds of get-togethers, then the numbers spike, and nothing seems to change. So I don't really know how we're going to get out of this, but I'm really hoping that we do, because I would love to see these guys come to Vegas and play another one of their amazing shows. But let's get into the song. This first one is called Speed of Sound. Oh man, what a great way to start an album, right? It's nice when you're starting an album to have a little bit of buildup, a little bit of anticipation in the music to set the tone for what the expectation of the album should be. I think this is a great build. I love starting it out with the Hammond. I think that's fantastic. I love that other synth though that came in, that sort of grinding synth. That was really nice. It reminded me a little bit of the opening to Damage Incorporated by Metallica, although I know that was done completely differently. But it just had that same feel to it. I really like that. Drums come in all energetic, not playing a straight beat, playing something on the toms and the kick. A really nice, way to keep that build going, because you can take something like that and build on it. Guitars come like this, just really sounds good. And like I said, I love a nice build at the beginning of an album. Well, it's been 4 years since the last album came out, and I can tell you Bernie's voice sounds just as good as it did on the last album. There might be just a little bit more grit in his voice on this one, which I like, or at least on this song. As the album, unfolds throughout this season, we'll find out how that sounds. But I think he sounds fantastic. I love this song. I love the way it's put together. Davey's bass sounds really good too. He's playing just right as any other bass player would have. He fits right into the band right off the bat, and I like that. I like that bass part. I like when he plays up in the higher register like that. That really fit. It's unexpected. Most bass players would probably go more towards the low end to thicken that up, but this sounded really good. There's a lot of blending here between the organ and the guitar. It's the last couple albums, they've really nailed their sound, I think, here. And you guys know me, if I don't like something about the sound, I'm perfectly happy and willing to point it out. And I have to say, this all sounds really good. Great mix, great panning, nice levels on everything, a good, clean recording. This album's already making me happy.
No question if you win or lose, whether it's cold or rainy. Gotta find my place whatever I choose. Never say if or maybe. And there's so many turns that I can't see in a world that I'm no stranger. I'm in the race and now I can't turn back. Surviving the face of danger.
Okay, I take it back. The keyboards might be a little bit too dominant over the guitar, especially in this last verse here. I'd like to hear a little bit more of what Mick's doing. I hear the distortion of the guitar, but I'm not really hearing the strum or the picking of the notes. So I'd like to hear just a little bit more of the attack come through, give that audio a little bit of crunch. But apart from that, yeah, it sounds really good. In fact, I think the keyboards at one point were even kind of getting loud enough to encroach on the vocals just a little bit. But there's a nice little fill he did there in the middle of that on the Hammond that I liked. And, bass and drums are just solid. They're very tight together. I like this. Okay, I think part of it is that Mick's guitar, I think, sounds a little more like a fuzzy distortion on this song than his regular distortion. So maybe he was doing something different. I don't know. But it does blend nicely with the keyboard. I just wish the volumes were slightly more balanced. And I really think it is that the keyboard is just slightly too loud versus everything else not being loud enough, because he's kind of overriding the drums a little bit on the song too at points. But I love the changes here. That's a really good open section. There's no solo in it, but it really had a good feel to it. I love the changes. I love the movement of it. I thought I heard some harmonic notes in there in one of the sections, but I couldn't really pinpoint exactly what it was. So I'm not sure who's doing that. But the sound of it was nice. It wasn't overpowering. It wasn't constant. It was just popping up here and there to add a little bit of spice to it, which I thought was really cool. Nice little vocal inserts as well. This song has got such a great groove to it. And it's a great opening tempo as well. Wow, what a cool ending. Very intriguing. I'm going to take a guess and say that probably blends into the beginning of the next song based on the abrupt cut of it. But we'll find out about that on Monday, won't we? Yes, we will. But this was cool. I liked the ending of it. I thought it was great. I thought it was a little mysterious. I loved the lead up to the ending. We got to hear Mick doing some things. It was very quiet in the background. Which makes me a little bit nervous for the rest of the album. Maybe this song was mixed specifically this way for a reason. And again, depending on what you're hearing, you might be hearing different mixes based on your headphones or your listening device. But me in the recording studio under the headphones I'm using, I can tell you, Mick was very quiet in the background during, in the repeating chorus in the end, when they do that style, it's very often we hear Mick kind of just going off a little bit in the background, but it's usually audible. This was very much in the background. So I'll be curious to see how that plays out in the rest of for the album. If it's maybe, like I said, just this song or not, I don't know. But that is our first song on Outsider. And I think it's a great start to the album. It's got a lot of energy to it. It makes me just want to go, okay, great. What's next? Let's listen to the next thing. But we're not going to do that just yet. We're going to save that for Monday. And in the meantime, I hope you guys all have a great weekend. Remember, it's the weekend. Relax, take some time for yourself. If you work all week, if you have that kind of schedule, like a good majority of the world seems to, this is your time to take time off and do something for you. Yeah, you got to get some chores done. You got to go to the store. Maybe you got to do some cleaning, whatever it is, mow the lawn, plow the snow, depending on what part of the world you're in. You got to get those things done. But at the same time, you can also find some time to just relax and enjoy the podcast, enjoy some more Uriah Heep music, enjoy some of your other favorite bands, but come back and listen to more Uriah Heep, because that's really where you want to be. You guys have a great weekend. Take care of yourselves. And remember to take a minute to do something for someone else. It takes so little. I swear, almost nothing to put some light in someone's day. We'll see you guys next week. Cheers. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Uriah Heep, the Magicians Podcast. If you have enjoyed this show, please consider going over to Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast outlet, leaving a rating or a review. Be sure to subscribe to make sure that you are notified when new episodes are available. Please be sure to share this podcast with your fellow Uriah Heep enthusiasts and anyone who you think would like Uriah Heep, which should be everyone. And if you are so inclined, please feel free to contribute to the Patreon account. And if you are not a Patreon subscriber, you can also pay through the PayPal link on the website listed in the show links below. I would also like to thank Uriah Heep for their very generous support of the show, and thank you guys for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Happy days!